Gospel of Matthew, the 2nd chapter, beginning with the 13th verse. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so it was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. And he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and in its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted, because they are no more." This is the end of the Christmas story as found in the Bible. And we tend to ignore it. We tend to skip it when we choose our readings for Christmas time, because it's not a fun story. And we even get to the point where we think of Christmas as a story for children, and this certainly has no place in a children's story. The greatest outpouring of God's love, the greatest sign of God's care for his people, the world had seen up to that point. And what happens next? The king decides that Jesus is a threat. And decides to kill him. Being unable to identify him, he just kills all of the children around Bethlehem who might be him. Now, some scholars look at this and say, well, surely an event like this would have been recorded, and we have no other accounts of this event except the Bible. Jerusalem was big at that time. Bethlehem was small. In terms of total number of people killed, this was probably not an earth-shaking event. In terms of the Roman world, it's not newsworthy. Probably a few hundred children at most. Now, that's still terrible. It's still horrific. It still says that the response of the world to the birth of Christ was to turn Jesus and Mary and Joseph into refugees, forced to flee their country, and then saw the needless death of hundreds of little boys. This is how the world reacted. And we look at that and go, well, what changed with Jesus being born? Ask one of those mothers in Bethlehem how it changed. What did Jesus' birth do for them? And they probably don't even know why their child has been killed. Probably not connecting the celebration they'd had when the shepherds came into town and talked about seeing angels, with the soldiers coming into town and snatching their little boys out of their arms. But something had changed. They didn't know it at the time. They had no idea what it meant. And yes, Herod was still king, and yes, Herod could still do whatever he wanted, including murdering innocent children. But something had changed. Christ was born. God was with us. December 24th, I went into the dollar store and picked in to buy some last-minute stocking stuffers. And they squished all of the Christmas items down to one shelf. And they had 9 shelves of Valentine's Day items. They were ready for Christmas to be over. I mean, it wasn't even Christmas yet. They were ready for Christmas to be over. Every year we have a holiday letdown. Every year between Christmas and New Year's, suicide hotlines have their busiest time of year. Because it seems like, yeah, Christmas came and nothing changed. We get a little time off, but we got to go back to work, go back to school, back to normal. Maybe we'll make New Year's resolutions, but we know we're not going to keep them. It happens every year. What's changed? What happens after Christmas? Christmas is not just a holiday on the calendar, though. It's a spiritual holiday. Christmas happens every time Christ is born in our lives. And a lot of times, when there's a new Christian who Christ has just been born in their lives, they ask the same question I've asked. What happens next? You know, oh, everything's changed. Nothing has changed, it seems. They're going to feel great when they get up from the altar, having accepted Christ in their life. But they're going to go home and go to bed, and the next morning, they're going to go back to work or school. They're going to go hang out with the same friends. They're going to have the same job. They feel like they're going to just live the same life. But they don't have to. It seems like nothing has changed. Forces of evil are still at work in the world. Bombs are still falling in Gaza, in Ukraine. Children are still starving in Africa. Homeless men and women are still sleeping on the streets in Indianapolis and in all of our major cities. it seems like nothing has changed. But Christ is with us, and everything has changed. The world is still a dark place, but there's a light that is shining in it that will never go out. There is a hope within it that can never be crushed, and a promise made that will never be broken. Christ is born in us. That changes everything. What comes next? Everything. We're going to face the same problems. We're going to face the same trials. We're going to walk the same paths we walked. But we do not face them alone. We do not walk our path alone. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed. We celebrate Christmas because it is the birth of the one the prophet called Emmanuel, God with us. And when God is with us, everything is changed. Our closing hymn is number 483, The Savior